me what you see when you look at this picture.
Nothing.
What's wrong with it? Wrong with this picture?
No, there's nothing wrong with it.
What if I changed it to this?
That's wrong.
Is there something wrong with
Both
this
wrong.
picture?
Depends. If that's a pedophile, I got no problem with that.
Oh, it's just a person that you or me. Most animals housed in zoos are not endangered. Nor are they being prepared to be released into their habitats like most zoos say that they are. They try to keep endangered ones for people to see what they look like and stuff instead of just reading about them. And I'm going to talk to you about cruelty in zoos and how badly the animals are treated. Elephants are one of the most commonly known for being mistreated. Zoos are built for human entertainment and don't seriously consider the animal's quality of life. And you'll see. This is an elephant that's been badly treated. When they train the elephants, they do it just like in circuses. They use those sticks with the pokey thing at the end, I forget what they're called, and they jab them till they do the right routine or trick that they want. And they chain them up, and they don't feed them very well, and they're very mistreated. Going inside what the elephant thinks. When you go to zoos, you see elephants bobbing their heads up and down, and that's a sign of stress. Most of them aren't supposed to do that in the wild. Elephant in captivity lives 16 to 18 years. Can anyone tell me how long they live in the wild, or what they think?
40.
40?
35.
Okay. They actually can live 50 to 70
Whoa.
years in the wild. So you can see a dramatic difference. For elephants, I don't think they're taking underground cells, but for the littler ones, like I know monkeys for sure are, when the zoo is closed, they take all the animals and they put them in underground cells for 17 hours of the day. And during that 17 hours, they're sedated, which means that they're given a drug to go to sleep, which is not healthy. And the only time they're awakened is for public display. This is an elephant chained up. For the zoos, they have really small cages compared to what they're supposed to have in the wild. In the wild, they'll roam for like miles and miles a day, but in that cell, they can only step like a couple feet or however big their cell or cages are. So that's not very healthy. This builds up stress in the animals. Signs of stress are like bobbing their heads, and you see a lot with the lions and the tigers. They walk back and forth and they pace around, and that's a sign of stress. This stress leads to suicide in animals. I know that Josh in here talked about the dolphins committing suicide, which happens a lot with marine animals, but other animals can do it too. That stress also leads to early death. As you can see, the elephant only lives 16 to 18 years instead of 50 to 70. According to Florence Lambert, the zoo is not a sanctuary. On the contrary, it's a prison. For me, it's like saying that all of you would be trapped in this room for the rest of your life. And you wouldn't want to do that. Why would the animals want to do that? When you look at a lion out in the wild, he looks happy and he's with his family. Same with any other animal. And then you take them into captivity, and that's when they become mean and boring, and they just sit there. Who wants to go watch that? There's nothing special about that. Actually, in zoos, the animals become so stressed and depressed, they give them antidepressant tranquilizers with guns that they shoot at them, so they're not as depressed and the people like them more.
I saw skin floating in the water.
Okay.
The skin was floating.
This is a video from Marineland, and I think it's really powerful. It's about how Marineland animals are mistreated.
Shelby, where's Marineland?
What?
Where is Marine Land? I'm thinking of SeaWorld, I guess. Marine
Yeah,
Land.
it's like SeaWorld, yeah.
Do you know where that one's at? Do you know where in
Florida, I think.
Okay.
This one.
Floating. It would fall off the dolphins and float away. Over the course of my tenure at Marineland, I was witness to things that people would never imagine a place like Marineland to be capable of. A major reason for my leaving Marineland was because the state of the facility was just so poor. The water had gotten so bad. It was green. It was harming the animals. It smelled bad. And it made the people who worked in this environment ill as well. The chemicals we were using to try to maintain the water were really harming the animals. The sea lions would haul up on land and dry themselves out and clutch their eyes shut, and their entire complexion would change, and the walruses were just miserable. I mean, poor Paulo would just sit there all day with sucking his flipper and looking out for some type of relief that I could not provide. The dolphin's skin was flaking off, their eyes clutched shut. We had to hold their mouths open to feed them and to get them their appetite stimulants. Baker and Sandy's eyes, I mean, we couldn't even train them to open their eyes till the damage was just so extensive that when we finally saw it, it was just grotesque. In treating the animals, we would pull them out and put them in dry environments to try to heal the superficial wounds, because the water had compromised their health so much so that we had to come up with some resolve. So we would pull them out for extended periods of time. However, in doing so, the consequence was we definitely harmed the animals' personalities, because not having access to water, fresh water, proved to be really harmful for the animals. In the case of Sandy and Baker, Baker was writhing in pain, constantly shaking erratically, clutching his eyes shut, Sandy clutching her eyes shut. Sandy didn't move for weeks. Baker would constantly dunk his head in the fresh water that we provided to try to alleviate some of the pain, but the damage was far too extensive. And at one point, I had to remove him from the dry environment because for fear that he was really in far worse shape in the dry dock. And in doing so, he actually barked, and his eyeball lens had projected from his eye socket and landed on the floor, and streams of blood was coming from his eye. Today, Baker just swims around with no real agenda, just breathing and clutching his eyes shut and just swimming in circles repeatedly.
So with that video, you can see how badly they're treated. And after Baker's eye fell out of his eye socket, they still kept him for public display, and all he does is swim around in circles all day. You see it in lion cages and zebra cages mostly, that on the walls they'll have like paintings of a natural habitat, and they think that's going to help them, but it really doesn't. Imagine our wall painted your house and all you could do was look at it. You would just want to go there that much more. It doesn't help at all. For the babies, zoos have been overpopulated, and they breed the animals there, so when they breed them, babies attract more people to come to the zoos, and that's what they want, is more money. So when the babies are born, they kill the older animals so then they have room for those animals. But if they don't, sometimes the rejected babies, like I said, when they were breeding, they become mentally retarded, so they just leave them to die. And the surplus is fed to other animals when they kill them. If they had an antelope or whatever at a zoo, they would kill that antelope and go feed it to the lions. They just keep the food and feed it to the other animals because a new baby was born. Zoos versus the Holocaust. In my mind, zoos are just like the Holocaust, and there's reasons why. They bring them in and take everything away from them. They're not with their family. They're alone in those cells, and they are tortured in some way. Like the elephants, I would consider that torturing them, poking them with sticks and chaining them up. And they even killed the ones, like they did in the Holocaust, and they're in small cages. So I would stop supporting this and don't go to zoos. If you want to help save the animals, then don't go and support this. Well, I don't get why you would want to go to the zoo anyways after you see what I showed you, torturing them. So if you don't go to the zoos, you'll make the animals